So we're going from this to that on Make It Custom today. What's up everybody, I'm Carl Fisher from Make It Custom. I'm working on the 1931 Model A Roadster body. I'm smoothing it all out, I'm getting the doors gapped, I'm filling holes, kind of doing the final touches on this body so that we can get the floor installed, get it back on the chassis, just move this project along. It's been here a little while, so I want to jump back on it. So what we did is made these side pieces, these top pieces. I'm going to show you how I shaped that metal, how I welded it in, how I did it without warping it, and how I smoothed out all these holes in the doors as well as gapped them. So let's get into it, guys. Thanks a lot. Don't forget to like, hit subscribe, click notifications. Let's get to the video. All right, so I did do a bit of filling on both sides. We filled a bunch of holes here. Couldn't really get to the back side. I could have de-skinned the whole door and done a big repair there. I know I could have done that. I probably would have just bought another door skin if that was the case. But anyway, moving along, got a bunch of those holes filled. These I just tack shut with MIG. You know, some guys might frown on that, say TIG only or whatever. But if you tack it up and make sure that you get a good weld on it, that you see that it kind of wets out a little bit. And then I do cool it with a little bit of air to minimize distortion since I'm not hammering to stretch that weld back out from the backside. There is the tiniest bit. You can see like these are a tiny bit low. That's just the truth. Everything gets filler. There's no metal finished cars that just go straight to paint like that. They don't, I promise you. There are cars that are extremely well done, way further along than this, that are next to perfect. And those cars still get filler, whether it might just be a polyester coat, like a sandable primer that does fill a little bit, or if it does get a little bit of Bondo, but that's just the truth. Anyway, what I gotta do next, like look at this. These are dented right in. They've affected the area around them. It's not something I can use my little punch tool filler technique. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually make this contour in a piece of sheet metal with the English wheel. How I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna use my rubber band on the top die. This is a profile gauge. It's made up of a bunch of needles. This one's made by Empire. A lot of different companies sell this type of stuff, so you can look online. Trick Tools for sure will have it, guaranteed. This is a bunch of needles. You press it on the side and it conforms. You can see that I've got that exact shape. So what I'm gonna do with this exact shape is I'm gonna go pick a wheel for the English wheel. The lower anvil on the English wheel is gonna be this radius. And then I'm gonna run a piece of metal through there with a rubber band on my top anvil, and that's gonna get my shape. So lower anvil, this one right here. This one for sure is not the right one. You can see how it's got a gap there. I'm gonna find the right anvil, shuffle some stuff around, and then we're gonna wheel this out to get a patch to cover both of those damaged holes. That's what I'm gonna do right now. Okay, check this out. I got lucky. This is my roundest wheel, or my tightest radius wheel, but check that fit. It is perfect. That's gonna be my lower wheel. I'm gonna stick that in here right now. Now this is a rubber band. Basically what I've heard people use is, I guess you couldn't see any of that. People use an inner tube tire, like an inner tube from a truck tire, and you can get your rubber band from that, or you can go to Trick Tools. This is not paid. Trick Tools just has a lot of stuff. This came from Trick Tools. It's a perfect rubber band. You can buy it for, I think, a couple different sizes of wheels. It was a gift to me from a friend. Works awesome. The whole idea is that this is just gonna form that shape into this piece of metal. So I'm just gonna try and get this piece of metal to roll this way so that I can cut a couple pieces for the bead I'm trying to make. I'm actually gonna drag this closer so hopefully you can see what's happening. And tighten it up. Trying to keep my piece as straight as possible so that it doesn't get all wonky. Just kind of going in and out. The piece is long enough so that I can hold on to something at the other end. A few passes, we're already getting quite a bit of curve, but we are not there yet, I don't think. You can see here that our gauge tells us we have another 3/16 of an inch to go or so. So when we're doing this, I just want you to know that there is no shape in this. This is form, so we haven't stretched or shrunk anything. We are just adding this form into here. It is turning out quite nice. That's just the rubber wheel on the top and our radiused lower anvil. We're getting pretty close. That's just about perfect right there. I am gonna run it through a couple more times just to make sure that we get everything. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Then also, you probably noticed on the Model A that the side of the car isn't dead straight. The side of the car has a little bit of curve to it. And this piece, because we haven't added any shape, this is also dead straight. Well, we've got a curve here because we didn't stretch it, but this part is straight. What I'm gonna do now is I am gonna just do a couple of passes with the English wheel without the rubber die. And what that's gonna do is stretch out our bead a little bit and give us a little bit of curve in our patch. We barely need any because we're only cutting small pieces out of there. Since we're here, we might as well do it. And we know it needs it, so why not? So I'm just gonna open it up a little, bring it in there, add a little bit of tension. I'm not gonna go crazy with this. Just gonna give it a little, just a little bit of stretch. Work it back and forth here. I'm not going to stretch it entirely evenly. There's going to be a little bit more passes right in the center, kind of gradually going out to get the shape. Okay, we did get a little bit of a bow happening, but it also flattened us out a little, so we're going to put that form back into it. Okay, we do have our form, and we have a little bit of shape. See that now? Let's go have a look at it on the car. Look at that. Pretty dang good, I'd say. It does need a little bit of trimming, so I'll trim it up. We'll make a couple patches out of that for right here and right there. All right, so here's some tips for you guys that were asking about welding sheet metal with MIG when you can't get to the backside. So this is it. I'm welding up these little pieces here, and I'm gonna do it with MIG. I can't get to the backside. I don't wanna deskin the doors. Basically, my technique, if I'm not gonna be able to get to the backside to hammer and dolly or to do any sort of massaging afterwards, is that what I like to do is tack and cool with air. I know that that's not really the best way to do that, but that's when you're talking about a situation where you can get to the backside. If you cannot get to the backside and you want to weld a panel in, which happens all the time, and you can do it really, really nice with very little filler, you just got to take your time. That's what I'm going to do here. Tack and cool, tack and cool. I don't want this panel to heat up past the point where I can touch it with a bare hand. That's how cool you gotta keep it to, you know, minimize distortion. So that's what I'm gonna do right here. We'll get this done, feathered out, and it'll look nice. All right, so got all this smoothed out, got all the holes filled. I would have liked to put a brand new skin on that door if I'd realized in the beginning how much work that was, but it's pretty damn good. I like using original skins. This is an original skin. It hasn't been replaced, so it's a nice piece. It fits well. So I got a couple more things to do here. I got to get rid of these guys. Overall, it's coming along pretty good. After I get rid of those, I'm going to move my attention to the front here. I'm going to take these pieces off, the windshield stanchions. They are bolted into a cast door pillar type brace. So we're going to cut all that across, cut it off, and then I want to attach this, whatever bar you call this, I want to attach it solid and then make sure that our gaps are very nice here. And because it's getting a Duvall windshield, the way a Duvall windshield mounts, it doesn't actually mount in the same location as your factory windshield post. So this area does have to be smoothed out. You can see where this kind of tapers up flat. That has to come out, and we just got to keep this in a nice smooth flow down to this body line. So we're gonna make a new piece for this and then fit the door gaps there. I do want to fit these door gaps as well a little bit nicer. I think that's like the most important part, especially like a simpler car like this, is that you got to make sure your gaps are right, and you got to think about it before it goes to paint. It's kind of a bummer when you see a car that's done so beautifully, but you know, like something like this wasn't addressed. See how tight that gap is? That's too tight. It's way too tight of a gap. What's gonna happen there is after it gets paint, it's gonna basically close that gap to almost nothing. And so when you open and close your door, if the paint keeps touching itself, one day that's gonna chip. And it's a real shame if you have a really nice paint job and things start chipping because whoever's doing the metalwork and body alignment didn't gap the car right. So especially on these cars, this area here is a major spot that needs to be gapped. So I'm gonna get to that. Let's make it happen. Okay, so we've come a little bit of a ways on the Model A. We got this all beauty here. We got the door gaps on both sides looking nice. Everything's filled in. I'm pretty happy with all that. The body's looking super sweet. Now, for for the head scratcher. I've never done a Duvall windshield before. If you don't know what a Duvall windshield is, it's a cast bronze, or usually they're bronze, cast bronze windshield that actually mounts up here on the cowl. And it's got this beautiful slant backwards. They're designed really, really well. They're very classic. They're a beautiful, beautiful piece. They're originally made for 32 Fords. People use them on Model A's as well, so now they're just shaped a little bit differently to be used on a Model A cowl. This windshield post here that I've removed now, this needs to be smoothed out. It needs to look like this body line does. So this body line here, it continues into the doors. That's this same body line. It's gonna need to flow kind of up into here. And this removable panel, it's not going to be removable anymore after it's welded into this body line. This top cowl that is removable, that's not going to be removable anymore because all that stuff's going to get welded in, smoothed out so that we can mount this Duvall windshield. So because I've never done one before, I'm just kind of like looking at it and trying to figure it out. You can see the profile of this kind of comes up and over and then down, kind of tapers thicker here. That all has to go. It has to become this smooth body line. I'm going to bolt this together. I'm going to line this piece up. I'm going to essentially put it on for the last time because after this piece gets welded in, it won't be removable anymore, and that's fine with me. That's what I'm scratching my head about now. Hopefully my plan's going to work. There's 3 bolts here, and then there's a bunch of bolts underneath that pinch. Basically, there's the nut, and it pinches in between this, this, and this. So I'm going to bolt all that together, line up the cowl, weld it all up, and then start shaping the new body line. I think I'm gonna make the body line out of 16 gauge just so that it shapes a little, like holds its shape a little bit better. It's gonna be a lot of welding. I'm gonna make it out of 16 gauge. I know I can shape 16 gauge like with the heavy hitting hammer over there and stuff. We're gonna give it a shot. Sorry for rambling on. I'm just trying to think. All right, so I just wanted to show you guys something that I'm working with right now on this top piece here. This is what I just made. You saw on the English wheel. I used the rubber top die, or sort of rubber band on my top die, and then just a a radius anvil that matches the radius on the side of the car. Now this is dead straight on this side, but on this side it's a little bit lower. So what that means for me is that this piece isn't actually dead straight. If it were to sit totally level, like that, it would be nice and straight. But because it needs to tip down to meet up with this lower line here, I'm gonna have to give this a bit of a curve. And I don't regret making this piece straight because it's just kind of easier to do rather than make this in a curve originally. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stretch the edge this side of that on the English wheel. I'm going to use the same lower anvil and the same upper die, but just no rubber to form. So I'm going to actually just stretch this edge out and try and give a little bit of a curve to this piece, and it should, see right now, it should curve right to this gradual cowl there. It only needs a 1/4 inch on each end to curve over, but that's what I'm working with. Just figured I'd explain it to you, and sorry about the audio. I lost my mic. It means that I have to do cleanup. So, I did that one time. Kind of tried to be as even as I could. You can sort of see on the panel here, the shiny spots, that's where I wheeled it without the rubber. The piece did distort a little bit, so I had to put the rubber back on to just put that form back into it this way. I'm kind of surprised that it pretty much worked perfect on the first go. Hopefully you guys can see. It's easier to see from above, but I don't really have that set up with the camera right now. But we are touching down here, touching up here, all the way along. It's got this, just a gentle curve, that's all it needed. I'm pretty happy with it. I think that it's a little bit of tweaking and it'll be awesome. That's all I'm gonna need on the wheel on this piece, and then I'll get onto the corners. Those will be a little trickier, but we'll get them. All right, so that's it. Here it is. The body is so close to being done in metalwork. Shaved off these windshield pillars. I think that turned out really, really good. This is all 16 gauge, by the way. 16 gauge, I'm able to shape with the heavy hitting hammers. It's a little bit more difficult with, hand hammers, but you can do it. And the reason being for 16 gauge is that you can't hammer these welds. Like, I'm welding on the corners, I'm welding inside a body line. If you were a coach builder, you probably wouldn't do that. But for the way that I'm building this thing, that's what I've got to do. So there's a lot of weld in there, and that is why I use 16 gauge, is because it's able to take the heat. It's so strong. Like, as soon as you add any shape like this, the material becomes so strong, and especially if it's 16 gauge, you can smash the crap out of it, and you can sand it a little bit extra. Because it's thicker material, it can withstand the heat of all that weld. Door tops, they turned out killer. We've got good clearance everywhere. We've been able to fill all the holes. It's almost there, so I'm waiting on a Duvall windshield. Next up, I'm gonna put this body onto the chassis. I'm gonna extend the wheelbase in the front. That'll be on the next video on the Model A, and we're gonna start figuring out the whole front end of this car. Not only the suspension, but we're gonna get into the sheet metal shaping of a track style nose. That's coming up, so stay tuned for that. Metal Reborn is tonight. I'm so excited that it's happening, as long as this video lines up to drop on Wednesday, which it should. Hopefully you guys got tickets to the online premiere. If it isn't yet 8 p.m. Wednesday, September 29th, get in on that online premiere because it's gonna be awesome. Thanks for watching Make It Custom, everybody. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. I'm trying to do this twice a week, so we're gonna keep you going. All right, take her easy, everybody. Have a good one.